Now, I did see somebody mention, like, hey, what would be Tulsi Gabbard's catchphrase? And Kara Moss, I'm going to shout you out. You basically said, perhaps get out of my way. And you know what? She's going to have, basically, I agree with that statement. She's going to have to really force her way into getting attention from the corporate media and from independent media and from voters themselves. So here's the situation that's happening. First, Representative Tulsi Gabbard, the day before yesterday, the day before yesterday was on TMZ as well as the Joe Rogan Experience. And this is something I've said with my fellow co-hosts, with Daniel, Paul, even Kira, and everybody else part of Hardlens Media, that the only way Tulsi Gabbard is going to get attention due to the fact that she is getting a media blackout is that she's going to have to go onto platforms and get that attention herself. And it's a bold move. It's an aggressive move. And with TMZ and the Joe Rogan Experience, they have a lot of viewers and subscribers. They have a lot of people who follow them on social media. And what better way to get yourself attention than to go on these platforms, especially with the Joe Rogan Experience. Now, we would play some of the videos, but due to the fact that TMZ and the Joe Rogan Experience do have a lot of following, we can't show those videos because we could get copyright. So, but I do recommend you guys check them out. And I'm really interested to really see that, one, Representative Tulsi Gabbard was talking about a lot of issues that we don't really see get covered by corporate media. And what really stood out to me the most is that she was willing to basically say, I stand for whistleblowers. I'm going to would pardon Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. And granted, she went into detail about how each of these different cases are different, but she was very well aware of that. We have to protect whistleblowers, and we have to ensure that there is a freedom of the press, because currently what we have here in this system is that it's a biased corporate neoliberal media system that we have. And at the end of the day, she even mentioned how the media is even giving her like a blackout as well. And she said it's a two-part problem. One, there are people who just don't like her or her campaign. And two, it's designed that way because the media will go with people who have much more larger name recognition. So the only way Representative Tulsi Gabbard can get that attention is by going on various platforms, not traditional towards how a presidential campaign would go. And I think this is a bold move on her part, and it's something that she needs to do. So Kira, I know.
Yeah, a lot of the mainstream media actually has access to all of the bigger name politicians anyway, so they don't really need someone like Tulsi Gabbard, whereas when she goes on these more independent like media tours like Joe Rogan or TMZ, what everybody also knows is that Tulsi Gabbard's name, no matter the blackout that is surrounding her campaign right now, there's still going to be hits when people see her name. She has millions of followers, and so I think it's a win-win for both Tulsi and for these independent media outlets, right? Because they actually get to work with each other to build recognition and steer more people who maybe would have been paying attention to Joe Rogan are now like, oh, well, this Tulsi Gabbard woman seems really interesting. And then, I have to admit, I've seen clips of Joe Rogan, but I've never watched almost 2.5 hours of him like I did when you sent me this clip. Yeah. And the only reason I really did, was because I was on the show and I wanted to be as prepared as possible. But also, because I'm interested in Tulsi Gabbard. She's a candidate that interests me. And, I have interest in what she has to say. So now Joe Rogan, being that I believe he was a fair interviewer and a really interesting one at that, might actually, look at that, gained a viewer. So I think that it works. I think it works really well for both. It's a win-win.
I think one, especially because I don't know what the view count is right now, but last I checked, it's over at 1 million views.
It was over 1 million views.
So if it's getting to that point, Kira, for me, I think it can help Tulsi Gabbard get some potential new support from independents, possibly conservatives, or maybe Democrats that were on the fence with her. She is definitely a candidate that has a lot of respect in my book,
yes,
because she's dealing with clear mountain that's trying to stop her from, getting attention. Now she is polling. Recent data I've seen, she's either polling at 3% or 2%. Again, she's in the single digits, and the reason for that is because how corporate media has been attacking her and discrediting her. And at least for Joe Rogan's case, he gave her a chance to really say, like, okay, well, what's really wrong here? Why is the media portraying you like this? And what do you have to say about these constant smears? And she went into detail, like, look, I'm not an Assad apologist. I'm not some Russian stooge. I'm an independent, and I will stand by my values. And that's how she's been elected numerous times as a representative for the state of Hawaii. And she talked about her time serving in the military and being a civil servant. So all these attacks on Tulsi Gabbard are ridiculous. And I really have to congratulate her for actually doing something this bold. And the next best step is to continuing going on media platforms that will give her attention and will give her coverage. And she's going to have to be unapologetic. And, we already know what corporate media is going to do to her. MSNBC, CNN are going to constantly smear and attack her. But maybe if she would show up on, I don't know, Fox News. I mean, already Elizabeth Warren has stated that she's not going to be at a Fox News town hall. So I don't know if anyone from Tulsi Gabbard's camp is watching, but since Warren won't take it, why don't you take it?
And also we talked just a couple weeks ago, didn't we, about some poll by some large media organization that completely ignored everybody under the age of, what was it, 50?
Yes.
And what they're, what they were polling at. And so, while the corporate media and establishment media ignores everybody under the age of 50, here comes Tulsi Gabbard, getting onto platforms where everybody under 50 is, or at least everybody under 35 is, you know? And so I think it's really smooth. I think it's really smart. One of the things they brought up in that interview that I was like waiting for them to bring up forever was her age. She's 38 years old. And I think that the way that she's going about this media blackout and all of the smears is really smooth, and you can see her age in how she's responding to these things, because she's still cool-headed and calm. She's just really measured, and while being measured, I think she also does a really great job of being authentic.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people have a hard time walking that line, and if you haven't been in public scrutiny nonstop, like a lot of us millennials have, and I just make the cusp, okay? Like many of us, like non-millennials have been,
right,
or millennials have been, you get a lot better at being measured and self-expressed,
right,
all at the same time, and they wrap it up really beautifully. I thought that was really, really great. And I think that's an interesting conversation, the age conversation, because you have two very progressive candidates right now who are dealing with similar things. It's easier to do that to Tulsi, the media blackout, than it is to Senator Sanders, but I think it's interesting because we have the age conversation on both ends of the spectrum now.
Absolutely. And the thing too, Kira, I want to add on to this, and even to our viewers as we get ready to move on to the next story, this is a potential boon for Tulsi Gabbard and her campaign. Already, as it stands right now, she's already secured 2 spots on 2 different debate stages. I think there's 2 other debates that will be happening afterwards. I personally believe that if she is on all 4 debates and next debates coming forward during this presidential primary election cycle for the Democrats, she's needed to be there, to be on the left of foreign policy for Bernie Sanders, and actually bring in much needed reinforcements to the Sanders campaign, and actually bring in much more open dialogue. I mean, if she's on the debate stage with Bernie Sanders, it's a much needed ally, and she has a different perspective and really more aware of what's happening out there. It was not only with local, national issues, but with foreign policy, which is her greatest strengths. So again, this is something, again, Tulsi Gabbard's campaign is going to have to continue to do, like go on different media platforms and make your presence known, because if the corporate media is going to ignore you, if they're going to keep on surprisingly giving all these ridiculous figures to the Biden campaign, even though they're basically polling people below who are at the age of 50 and above, it's quite clear that she's going to have to control the narrative. So break away from the neoliberal system and just make a name for yourself. And I think it's a bold move on the Tulsi Gabbard's campaign, and hopefully it's enough to get her at least more strength in the polls and to be on future debates as we go into 2020. So
I think that she has a really original perspective, and I think one of the reasons that it's important that she get on the debate stage is her service in the military, and I think that that's something that through her campaign she should really highlight, because I could be totally wrong, but I think she's one of the only, if not the only, who has served in the military. Who else has served in the military that's a Democratic? I don't know right now. I don't have that information in front of me, but I would be curious to know. Yeah. And I think that that's a really important. 17 years, she said, of service, and I think that's a really important thing to bring up too.
I think in regards to anyone else who has been in service would be Pete Buttigieg, but okay. I think that's the only one I can think of right now.